Okay, we're up to Perek Amites, Pasuk Vav. So in Pasuk Vav, which we discussed already last year, but we're going to go into a very specific point tonight. It says, I'm going to first take Bimei Ma'ira. It says, V'lo yada itay me'uma. So he uses this word me'uma. He paid thought to nothing. He didn't pay any thought to anything. Kiyam halechem. Okay, so this word me'uma is a recurring word in this story. Lo yada itay me'uma, and then Yosef says, Pasuk Tes, Chosach mimeni me'uma, which is what suggests that the lechem in Pasuk Vav is actually the Isha. and then this parak ends. The Sarbe Sasoya wasn't Roya Kal Me'uma b'yadai. And then Yosef tells the Sahamashkim, Parak Mem Pasuk Tes Vav, that he didn't do Me'uma. B'gam poilei asisi Me'uma. Okay, so just to point out, you have this word, Me'uma, an interesting word. And it recurs through the parasha. Okay, so something about Yosef, there's like nothing to see there. Everything is perfect, nothing is wrong. Now I want to show you something that we have a similar, the word occurs too in Daniel. What coming? The word also occurs in Daniel. Welcome, Rabbi Yanki. You know it's not Parsha Shavua.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want, you can sit here because it's blocked. Whatever you want. Whatever you want. That's there. Make yourself comfortable. Okay. Good. Take a Tanakh. You're going to need that. We're in Perek Amites, Pasuk Vav. Okay, so it says that the Saramashkim, the Sarat Tabochim Petifar, the Yoda Itay Me'uma. I want to show you that the same word you have in Sefer Daniel, first pack of Daniel, where it talks about young men who were taken to the court, to the Heichal of Melech Bavel. And there the Pasuk says, Pasuk Daled, Parak Aleph Pasuk Daled, the Pasuk says it was Yolodim Hashem Behem Kol Mum, Toive Mare. So these children that didn't have any mum, and their mum is written with an Aleph, which some say is associated with Me'uma, meaning mum and Me'uma B'chlal maybe are related, because a mum is a blemish, like the slightest thing is a mum, and Me'um is nothing. So these children had nothing. The Gemara says there was not even a speck or a mark of letting blood on Daniel Hananim Shomazai. That's why it says Yiladim Hashem Mem Kol Mum. Okay, so what am I showing you? That someone's in the king's court, and they're also the Teve Mara, right? In this pasuk, we're focusing tonight on pasuk Lamed, Perek Lamed Tes pasuk Vav, where it says Lo Yodite Me'uma Kiyam Halechem Ashehu Eichel Ahiyotzi Fei Torah Fei Mara. We'll talk about that a lot soon. But similarly, the other major story about children in captivity who are in a Goyish environment and how they end up growing there and succeeding. The story is about Yiladim Hashem Behem Kol Mum. There's nothing wrong with them. And they're Tevei Mara. Now, it suggests also then that you're supposed to read, when Yosef keeps on saying there's no Mu'uma, it's saying a broader thing. Yosef is perfect. There's nothing wrong with him, right? It's not just that, okay, we trusted him fully. The whole repetition, he didn't do anything wrong. And that everything about Yosef is perfectly fine. He's perfect, right? Like those children who are Yiladim Hashem Kol Mum, they're perfect children. So it's not just that his master trusted him implicitly. It's giving you an impression about Yosef as being such a wonderful, perfect person who deserves to become very great, and he does. Now, of course, in that story, in the Daniel story, and we mentioned this I think last week before, you have these children or these young men that are in the court of the king, and one of them is going to become very great and advisor to the king because he's going to interpret the dreams. That's what Daniel does in Sefer Daniel. So there's a lot of a pattern here, similarity to that in Yosef, who is no Me'uma, and he's Yifei Torah, Yifei Mara, we'll get to that soon, and he's going to the Gedula specifically through interpreting dreams.
Me'uma seems to be a negative thing here in that context, and especially in Chav Gimel. In Sabri Sasara is called Me'uma B'yadai, not anything, but any bad thing. So there, that works with your reference to Daniel, that Mum is spelled Me'um, that means a negative thing.
Why? Well, Me'um B'yadai means he didn't have any negative thoughts about him?
Here it means...
No, I think it's...
In Sabri Sasara is called Me'uma B'yadai.
Right, it's like Loyadi to Me'uma. It means he didn't have to...
Right.
He didn't have to see anything. He could take his mind off everything. I don't think it means any negative. It means, it's like Loyadi to Me'uma, meaning the same way. He didn't have to think about anything, right? The Saddam didn't have to think about anything, so he didn't have to look at anything. He could just leave with it.
Well, in that other context, you're saying Mum means a negative. So
Yeah, because for a person to have anything that draws your attention is a mum. I think it's anything remarkable. Okay, there's another place we have the word ma'um, also where it's actually debatable whether it means mum or anything. And like we said, the two things seem to be associated because a mum is any slight blemish. And that's in Ear of Parak Lamed Aleph Pasuk Zayin. Take a look at that one. It seems to also be connected to our parasha. Ear of Parak Lamed Aleph Pasuk Zayin. Ear is talking about all the things that he didn't do wrong and how good he is. And so a bunch of things he didn't do. So here's Parak Lamed Aleph Pasuk Zayin. He says like this. Im tita ashuri mini hadorech. If my steps went off the right path, va'achar einai holach libi, if my heart followed my eyes, u'bechapei davak mu'um, and anything stuck to my hands, which pashas means like if I stole anything, right? Achar einai holach libi, I was attracted to something, and maybe achar libi holach einai, meaning if achar einai holach libi, if my eyes were attracted to something and my heart followed and agreed to do what my eyes were attracted to, and then something attached to my kapayim, to my hands, meaning something a stolen item probably. Then Ezra, he's like cursing himself if he did anything wrong, which is a way of saying he didn't do anything wrong. Lamed Aleph Zayin, he says, Ezra va'acher oichal, then let me plant and someone else will eat it. Yoichal v'tze'etza ayishay roshu, and let my descendants be uprooted. And then the next pasuk, the next two psukim, the next four psukim. Im nifta libi al isha va'pesach re'i aravti, if I crouched or if I laid ambush by my friend's house for his wife, then Titchan la'acher ishti v'ala yuchun acherin ki hizim avuvav and plidim ki eishi avadim teichel, taking someone else's wife is like a fire, it consumes down to avadin. Ubechol tvu'asi yisisharesh, and it should be misharesh, it should uproot all my tvu'ah. So he's saying I never did such a thing, and he's bringing a curse upon himself if he ever did such a thing, that he didn't steal anything, no mu'um stuck to his kapayim, and he didn't take someone else's wife. So Yosef doesn't have any mu'umah, that means his master trusts him implicitly, which means he's unlike other avodim that are marba gezel, right? Yosef is perfectly honest, and Yosef is not going to take his wife, even though it's going to be that temptation. So again, so the point is, right, just the connection to the parasha is there. It doesn't really add much. It's obvious in our parasha also, means he trusts him completely, but that seems to be connected to that pasuk in Eve. Okay, that's all I wanted to mention on Me'uma. But keep in mind the connection to Daniel. We're going to see a lot about that.
So what will you bring out from here?
Just that there seems to be a connection, right? No, it doesn't. It doesn't seem to add, I don't think it adds anything to here. Oh, it does add one more thing. No, it's important because you see in Eve, he says, if I took someone else's wife, then my tvua should be destroyed. So you see for some reason that the punishment relates to tvua. So Yosef was going to become in charge of the lechem. It's b'schus that he didn't take the wife. Okay? That's something interesting you see from Eve, which is very clear in the Yosef story that for some reason the controlling the lechem has to do with this, but that's explicit in Eve. Okay, yeah, I meant to bring it at that point. Okay, now here we have the end of the pasuk. Very strange thing. So, Vayazav kasher lo b'yad Yosef lo yadi teimu wakim alach vashahu eichel vahi Yosef yifei toyar v'yifei mareh. So, firstly, just to point out, yifei toyar v'yifei mareh is like Rachel, like his mother. Rachel ha'yisei fas toyar fas mareh. So, too, Yosef is like his mother. And the Medrash says some sort of saying, you throw a stick in the ear, it lands up on its lands up on its root, whatever. The kid, so he follows his mother, takes after his mother. So the fact is, Torah uses the same term. Okay,
Which we had mentioned when we discussed this, that was what Yaakov was looking for.
Right.
And that's why when Yosef was born, he was ready to leave.
Right. Because you would think that a king should be good looking, like we have that whole story by Shaul, and David's looking for kings, right? Okay. Now, the question is like this. The question is if Pasuk doesn't read. Right? The pasuk doesn't read. Where does this come in? First of all, Yosef was good looking. He was already good looking, and
we mentioned that earlier.
I think we mentioned that earlier. And if this is right, maybe we can mention it earlier.
We did.
Where?
The term of the
No.
They're not here.
No, it doesn't say that you're supposed to be Tevim Mar.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but it could have. Anyways, the point is, and if this is akadama to the next story, so what's the break by Hiachad Varmaela, right? It's like, no, we're not saying, there's obviously an association, but it's not as a hakdama for the next story, because of there's this pasuk, and then by Hiachad Varmaela, a new thing happened, which is nimshach from it, but clearly by Hiachad stands on its own. But it's very odd, it's completely disconnected from the ratio of the pasuk, right? Okay. I want to say one other ha'ara, which we mentioned already. Okay, the question is what the lechem is in this pasuk, right? In pasuk vav, is the lechem bread, or is the lechem a euphemism for isha? There's different ways to read this. Clearly, later in the parasha says suggesting that the lechem is the isha. On the other hand, some people say lechem is lechem. The pasuk doesn't seem to be a metaphor, and as we discussed last week, and then we have the pasuk that says that the mitzvim kept their lechem. The mitzvim can't mix with the ivrim when it comes to lechem. The pasuk says la yuchlu mitzvim lechem lechem. They can't eat together. Right, and that's what, right? So the lechem, the mitzvah have this thing with the lechem, they have to stay away from it. Okay. So just pointing out.
It would sound like that lechem is gepshute.
Right. But on the other hand, there's also much more that has to do with Isha. Okay, just to point out. Now, let's learn some Daniel, and if we learn Daniel well, we'll see how we plug it into this parasha, and it solves everything. So we're going to learn Daniel Parak Aleph, which, as we mentioned, there's a lot of connections here in the story. Basically, you have a young man who's in a foreign land, in Golis, and the question is, how is he going to act, and how is he going to succeed?
Not entirely alone.
He's not entirely alone, correct. So Daniel Parak Aleph goes like this. I'm going to paraphrase the points that we need. So in the third year of the Machzeh Hayakim, Nebuchadnezzar comes and lays siege, and he takes control. Hashem gives him in his hands Hayakim, and some of the Beis Elokim brings them to Shinar, and he tells Ashpenaz to bring for the Bnei Yisrael and Zamaluk and Patimim, Yilodam Hashem Behem Kol Mom. He wants to have children from the Zamalucha and from the leaders. What kinds of children? What kind of children? Right, from Beis David. Actually, the Yushalmi says these are the last, because the next pasuk says, I'm sorry, pasuk Vav, Vayiva Hemid Bnei Yehuda, Daniel Chananim Shalazai. The Yushalmi says these are the last. Maybe it's a Medrash in Shashir. These are the last remnants of the whole Yehuda, or at least of the royal family. So to bring from the Zermaluch and the Patimim, to bring Yelodim that don't have any mom. What?
Daniel, Hanan, Shalazai.
That was it. Yeah.
They were related.
That's they were all from the Zermaluch. So So Yelodim Hashem Mem Komom are good looking, and they know Chachma Yedadas V'Nimada, and they have courage to stand in Chanach and teach them safer. And the king told them like this: we're going to give them pas bag of the king and the ayin. Pas bag means, obviously pas means pas. Bag is a new word over here, but it means something to do with eating, clearly. So the king says we have to feed them bread and wine, and after 3 years they're going to stand in front of the king, Yehuda, and from the Bnei Yehuda, and they got new names. And Daniel, pasuk has Daniel, he committed to, he had this conviction that he's not going to become Nizgoel, become disgusting through the pas in Yayin Akum. He says he doesn't want to eat them, and the Sarsarism liked him. It was a chin l'chesed. Remember, like Yosef was a chin l'chesed. And the Sarsarism said to Daniel, "Lamais, I'm afraid the king said I have to feed you, and he's going to see you."
It says chesed l'rachim.
Yeah.
Different.
Good.
Chen was a
Right.
problem, no?
Right. Good point. Okay. Right. And the Sarsarism says to Daniel, "I'm afraid of my king, the master, the king. He told me to give you food and drink, and he's going to see. Why should he see you guys panechem zoyafim from the other children that are the same age as you, and then I'm going to have my head to the king." So Daniel says to the Meltzar that he tells him like this. He says, the one that was in charge of Daniel, now we have Hananim Shalazar involved, and he says, test your servants for 10 days, give us zeroinim and water, and you'll see how we look. Compare us to the children that are eating the pas bagamalach, and he tests them for 10 days, and after 10 days they marry him toiva b'yei basar from all the other children. Okay? Now let's look at pasuk Yud Zayin. Vayilodam ha'il arbatim noson olakim mada v'haska b'chol sefer b'chacham v'Daniel hevim b'chol chazan v'chalemis. So I have a question. If you read this parak, you want to know, why was Daniel better than them? That he was also able to interpret dreams. Any ideas?
Well, he was the first one to choose not to eat.
Right. He was the one who said we're not going to eat from the. So apparently this idea of like, okay, we're staying away from the pasak. You have to be Daniel Parak Aleph. The fact that you stay away from the goyish bread and wine is what makes him special, and he can interpret dreams. Okay.
They all stayed away.
They all stayed away, but he was the one who he initiated it. He was the one who gets the schach, as it were, right? That's what it would seem from the simple reading. So then I had a question. So how did Yosef get this? If that's how Daniel got to interpret dreams, because he had this whole thing, so how did Yosef get to interpret dreams? There you go. That's the significance, that the Mitzri bread, Yosef stayed away from the Mitzri bread. Very important. When you're in Galus, okay, so I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if that matters, because in other words, in that story, Daniel was the main one. Here, there's only one person. They didn't get the schach because they didn't agav Daniel. Let's say Yosef. It doesn't matter if maybe it's not that Daniel took the initiative. They were male. It was easier for them to do it once Daniel was doing it. I'm saying Daniel's the.
Here's a different point, but here's the point. They decided even though there was a pressure to eat it, they didn't eat it. Fine. Here it says. Right.
Okay, it's a side tabachim that's not giving him bread.
The boss won't give you the bread, so we won't
Fine.
give you.
It's a good question. It's a good question. It's a fair question. It's a fair question. Hold off on that. It's an interesting question. Okay, but upon him, it's very important that Yosef is not eating the mitzvah bread. And that's what you see from the Daniel story. That's a very key thing. These people that are in the court of the king, how are they going to be able to gedula? First thing is don't eat the pas in the eye. Okay, and specifically the one who doesn't do that, it become this kayach to be pesach halaymes. And
Daniel
so
wasn't a dreamer from before. Yosef was already a dreamer.
Okay, I don't know what Daniel's doing before. Who knows? We'll check this.
Yeah.
Pesach Halim is a different thing, right?
Yeah, but he was always dreaming.
You know, Pesach Halim is different. Yeah, but interpreting dreams is different. Interpreting dreams is special. Whatever. What?
Point.
Yeah, it's different. I don't know.
Before this, he was
By the way, Daniel also is a dreamer. You know that.
Yeah,
also
that's
a dreamer.
later.
No, later. Right? Okay, maybe before us. I mean,
but we don't know.
the two things go to. Maybe there's a rise from Daniel and Yosef that the dreaming and interpreting dreams go together because both of them are major dreamers and also major dream interpreters.
Dreams, visions, yeah.
No, but it's Daniel also says chalayim.
Yeah.
It's a question. It's nevuah or kodesh. Yeah, some machlekes. Right. It's a godly kind of thing, and that's Daniel also says that. Sure. Well, we'll get there. Okay. By the way, so I found this. Oh, so that's the pshat the pasuk. Now it's very pashut. He only ate lechem. So you'd think. What do you think? He didn't get the mitzvah lechem. He didn't get the good bread. So what's going to happen? He's going to start looking shvach. No. Hagam, he wasn't eating the bread. Beautiful. That's exactly Mamish the same Daniel story. Just like them.
They look good. Okay.
That's it. That's the whole shot. Now I found. Now what?
They look better than everyone else.
Even though they're drogen.
Right. Exactly. Even though. Right. Right. Even though. Meaning that's what's stressing it over here. Oh, he's out in there. He's caught in Mitzrayim, and the Mitzri bread is not. You can't mix with the Mitzri bread. Everything's going great except for the Mitzri bread. So you think, okay, Yosef has a problem. He has to eat is tuna fish, grace and oranges, whatever.
I don't know. Maybe
right?
He's also eating rice.
Eating what?
Rice.
Fine, whatever. But yeah,
but
he also
eating rice.
Yeah, okay, but it says rice.
He says it was rice.
Okay. No shaykhs.
Okay, fine.
No shaykhs. Yeah, there's all machlokes over there. There's all machlokes. Everyone gets all excited. Is it a nace or it's like, no, it's not a nace. It's perfectly fine. Vegan diet.
He says the nace was that they look better.
Anyways, I found the one thing. I was so excited. First, I said this is Dvarim Shel Hashem, but then I searched to see if anyone ever said this. I found Bavram Sabah. You know what that is? He was from the Megrashi side. He was born in 1440, and he was chased out of Spain. And he wrote a sefer, Tzur Hamor, which looks Meshunadik. His granddaughter married the base of Cairo. So now you know who we're talking about. And it's a sefer called Tzur Hamor and Chumash. And he says a little different. He says, means Yosef only was able. There's another way to read the pasuk is just the bread that Yosef was eating. We didn't talk about that, but that's how he reads it. The only thing that he was mashgiach on is that he would give Yosef a portion of bread, something like that. Either way, the point is he reads the pasuk, but the pasuk is saying Yosef only ate bread and not fine foods, and Afal he looked good because Yosef didn't want to eat the Kaddish food, whatever. And he says like this. He says Daniel, he says Daniel that's where Daniel learned it from. Like they were inspired from Yosef. You see that you could stay away from the food and everything will be fine. Okay, just that point, he says. All right.
That's why they were willing to make the deal.
Right, exactly. And he adds one more thing. He adds also Yosef is called Nazir Echov, which the Medrash says that he was perished from wine until he met his brothers. So he says that because you can't drink wine with the Goyim. But when his brothers are there, so he could drink wine with them. That's what he understands. It's very nice. So it's about pas and the eye. Okay, so basically it's like this. So the question of like, as it were, a Jew in the Kodesh court, what's he going to do? What's the Shaila about? The Shaila is about the pas and the yayin.
It's a very good head, but somebody saying one with that point that he brought out of how did Daniel know to take the risk? And
Right. Right,
That's
it's
a side,
learning it
but
from the Torah, right.
Moshe's eye held different.
Yeah. Oh, could be. Come on, he's learning it from the Torah, he's saying. He's learning from the Torah. That's where it comes from, this story, right? So now, so what's the question, let's say in Daniel, right? The question is the pas and the yayin. That's the issue. That's what the story starts with, right? So I think the fact that there's a Sar Mashkim, Sar Oifim, now we understand what's going on over here, right? Sar Mashkim, Sar Oifim. The pas person and the yayin person, right? That's what the story revolves around, okay? And we'll get to that soon. So there's some more to talk about that. But before that, I want to just get back to that question. So what does lechem mean? Does lechem mean bread? Does lechem mean the isha? And not much of a difference because the Gemara Nebuchadnezzar says, "Gazra pitam mishum yein mishum b'nei seihem." So that's the thing is, lechem can mean one thing. Before you know it, lechem is the isha. What?
You skipped the
I know. Right, because Rabbi hit the so that's the point. The point is it could be lechem, but then before you know it, it's the isha because slippery slope. So that's why I think dafka is this ambiguity. On the one hand, lechem is the living lechem. On the other hand, you see, lechem is the isha. Yeah, because lechem turns into that. Okay, so you know the women. Yeah, yeah. Wait, it's ironic because he marries the daughter over here, according to the Medrash, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to say that. Sure, I have to figure that out. Okay.
Well, if she was the daughter and not adopted or whatever.
Right,
That's
right,
another
okay,
issue.
right. Anyways, like this. Okay, so let's talk about the Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim. So look at the story. Everyone knows the Pesukim in Perek Mem, in Perek Mem, in Pasuk Yosef. So Yosef comes to them in the morning, Pasuk Vav, Vayar Oisam Behinim Zoyafim. And he asks them, Madua Pneichem Roim Hayoim. Right? Madua Pneichem Roim Hayoim. Which, if you remember from Daniel, the Sar, what is it called? The Sar Sarisim, said to Daniel, so let's see, Daniel, Perek Aleph. No, Sar Sarisim. Yeah, in Pasuk Yod, he says, I'm afraid of the king. Asher Lama Yiras Pneichem Zoyafim. Right? Lama Yiras Pneichem Zoyafim. So Yosef sees it's our mashkim Sar Oifim, Zoyafim. He says, Madua Pneichem Roim. And he's afraid, the Sar Sarisim is afraid if they don't eat bread and wine, they're going to be Pneichem Roim, Zoyafim. It's not going to look good, right? Anyways, I don't know exactly, it's just showing the association. Like as if the Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim were the last people that are supposed to be Pneichem Zoyafim, Pneichem Roim.
It's like sound like they didn't eat breakfast that day. They didn't eat the bread and wine.
Who? Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim.
That's what you're saying.
I'm just showing like this. I'm just showing that the stories that we're supposed to read the Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim story together with the Daniel story. That's all I'm showing. The Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim are very significant because the way that the question of how you go Gedula when you're in Bechatzar, the Goyim is stay away from the pas and the yayin. That's all I'm showing. What exactly is how do you tie it? I don't know. I'm not sure. Perhaps is that the Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim shouldn't. First, there's another funny thing over here because the question to the Sar Mashkim Sar Oifim Madua Pneichem Roim is a very strange question because they're in jail and they might be killed. It's a weird question.
Well, no, he's seen them before.
Okay, so it's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, you're different.
Mm-hmm. I understand. So maybe they're just getting anxious. I'm saying, well, still a little strange. What?
Yeah, do that. It's kind
Right, they know that. They may not know that.
They're telling you.
Okay.
of.
Yeah, there's something to think about there.
I'm saying the young letters was 3 days later, so it's not like it's.
Something to think about that. It could be it's like you're saying that they didn't eat. It could be they didn't eat. I'll tell you why I'm saying that. That's what gets to your question. Did Yosef ever perish? Look at that pasuk. It's a very strange because I'm just not sure about this. I wasn't going to say this, but once you raise it, in Perek Mem in Vayeshev, pasuk Vav and Zayin, something very strange over there. What's strange is like this. The story goes: Yosef comes to them in the morning. He sees they're upset, and he says, "Why are you upset?" Oh, well, there's a whole long conversation. He said, "Oh, we had a dream, and nobody can interpret it." He says, "Okay, tell it to me. What does that mean?" That means they already the last hour they were spending telling it to everyone, and nobody can interpret it. Now, I don't think this jail was full of professional interpreters.
No.
Say that, right?
Nervous, so
Okay, they told it to everyone, right? So the story could have gone.
Yeah.
Woke up in the morning. Everybody's had a dream, and Yosef says, "Say that. I tell you what it means." No, that's not how the story goes. Yosef comes late, and
Yeah,
everyone's
right.
upset.
He's busy.
And see, they're upset because no one could interpret it. I mean, in the morning when they woke up, they weren't upset. They said, "Oh, I had a dream. Let's go." No one could interpret it. An hour later, right? So why is that necessary for the story? Even Pashas. That's the first question you ask. Why is that necessary for the story? That okay, it happened like that, right? But I think maybe Ulay. he's not around the Samashkim Sarah from breakfast time. Because he's not eating Samash. Right, and then he comes an hour later. By then, like, they should be in a good mood because they ate already. What's going on over here? You guys are supposed to. I'm the one who's supposed to be maybe Penechem Zoyafim, but yet I'm somehow managing magically to look good, right? Despite the fact that I'm not eating anything except for water and rice. But then you say, what's going on over here? Right? So that's maybe where he's not participating. I don't know. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure. I don't know. Were they functioning in jail? I mean, if you have a baker in jail, you might as well use him, I guess. But whatever.
I don't know whether Sarah Mashkin.
You know, he actually baked.
Whether Sarah Oifim is baking.
He actually didn't know. He actually didn't know any recipes.
No, he probably didn't know how to bake.
Okay.
He's a Sarah. He's not the.
All right.
People translated it
He could pretend.
As the baker.
He could pretend.
Pretend.
Okay, now look at this. Now look at this. Here's where it gets even more interesting. Look at this. Okay, I want to show you another connection to Daniel. Look at what happened to them after they ate, right? After they did the 10-day experiment, Pasuk Tezvav and Daniel. Umiktzas yavim asara. Nira mar'ehem toiv ubriye basar. Mar'ehem toiv ubriye basar. Shalom like?
Like the cows?
Like the cows. Like the cows that were Yifai Samara and Brios. Brios Basa Yifai Tarba. Isn't there a lesson like that? Almost like exactly like this? When we recounted it? Yifai Samara or Brios Basa. Here it says Mariam Toiv Ubriye Basa, right? Right? Oh, right. The thin cows were Mariam Ra. I don't know if it says Mariam Toiv about the cows. Okay, but you get the point. Right, the other cows were Mariam Ra, and right. Right, and the other ones were Mariam Ra. Right, no, and Mariam Ra. Okay, so these Ladim were Mariam Tevu Briye Basa, right? So now, like the cows, what shaykh is cows? I want to tell you the shaykh is because. You're going to jump on me, so don't even bother. Because the ride that you could have a vegetarian diet and be very fat and gesund are cows. Right? And, okay, and
is actually bread.
It's processed. The point is, they didn't have processed. No, it's processed. It's processing. Bread is healthy for humans, but cows don't eat bread. Cows eat raw zerayin, and they do just fine. Now, the point is like this.
Who says they were raw?
So we have to think about that. Okay, it wasn't the davar shenach k'mashucha anyways, because otherwise bishalakim might. When were the guys on bishalakim? Okay, fine. Okay. Anyways, like this. Just another thing which you have to figure out is that Yosef is the shar, right? Yosef is a shar. So the Paro's dream about a good-looking fat cow could really just dream on Yosef, right? A dream about Yosef, who's Yifei Toyefei Mara, despite the fact that he doesn't eat the good food, the processed food. Fine. Now, either fat cows get swallowed up, and Yosef didn't. Yeah, but you know why Yosef didn't get swallowed up? Because Yosef interpreted the dream and said, "Let's not let the fat cows get swallowed up and disappear. Let's save them." Which is how he saved himself, right? Because we would have forgotten about Yosef. Everyone's always forgetting about Yosef. He would have been forgotten and no one would ever think about him again, like the 7 cows that were swallowed up and disappeared. But he interpreted, and so he didn't just interpret it. He said, "Let's actually change the what's going to happen, so the cows don't disappear." And Yosef is the shar who's Yifei Toyefei Mara, and not disappearing.
Who is he going to get swallowed up by? If not.
Swallowed in jail. I mean, I think he's Yifei Toyefei Mara. It's time he has loads of potential, and nothing will come of it. And here's how it's going to come. Something's going to come from it. He's going to save the 7 cows from oblivion.
Well, he's saying, I'm just thinking of the Shabbalim as the past.
Right. Yeah. It's right. The Shabbalim is the past. I forgot exactly.
Well, no, he's in charge of lechem.
Yeah. So he's the cow. He's in charge of lechem. Okay, right. We have to figure why there's 2 elements and are they parallel? Okay. Yeah, the Shabbalim is right. The Shabbalim is obvious. There's lechem, right? Yosef can be in charge of lechem for sure.
Well, they preserve the animals.
There's always 2 sets of dreams. Like Yosef has 2 sets of dreams. It's interesting because all 3 sets of 2 dreams have one bread thing. I mean, Yosef has stars and the stalks, and then there's mashke v'sar ha'oifim, and then there's pari has the cows and the shmachim. So always seems to be one constant seems to be it's about lechem or grain.
It mentions it.
And then what?
The Sarah Eifim is not really about that. It's just
What do you mean? It's lechem. What do you mean?
It's in there, but it's not about the lechem really. It's about his life.
Oh, okay. You mean the interpretation? I understand, right? But at least the
story
content of
does
the actual
involve
dream, right?
something, yeah, involved.
Right.
So the dream is involved.
Yeah, but there was the Sa'if was the not good bread. It was the Oif is eating
Yes,
the bread.
right. Actually, it doesn't say bread there. I mean, it doesn't say it was bread, but yeah, but it was my
Ma'aseh.
side. Yeah, no, it doesn't say the word bread. Right? Yeah. Okay. Good. Now I want to show you another raya. Okay, so we think about that when we get the prior dreams and Yosef and the Shah, etc. So I'm bringing another raya to tie this all together. There's another place where there's Madua Pnei Chemrayim, and that's in Sefer Nechemiah. Sefer Nechemiah, Parak Aleph, is another story about a court Jew, right?
Yeah,
That's what called?
Yeah,
A court Jew, right? A Jew who rises to prominence in the king's court, like Daniel. The other one is Nechemiah. Parak Aleph and Nechemiah goes. Nechemiah introduces basically who he is, and he says that he heard a report from Yerushalayim that Yerushalayim is destroyed and there's a bad situation there, and he's very upset to hear about this, and he davens to Hashem. This is Parak Aleph, and he davens to Hashem to return Kibbutz Nitchi Yisrael, and then the parak ends with Nechemiah telling us, informing us of his position. V'aniha yisi mashke lamelech. That's a parak Aleph Nechemiah. It means he was the king's mashke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now look at the beginning of parak Beis. Chodesh Nisan, 20 years.
It doesn't say he's a Sar.
Okay, fine. He picks up the yain. He's nice to the yain, gives it to the melech. V'loha yisi ra lefonav. He was careful not to be ra to the king. He's the mashke. He has to look good. He has to look happy. The king says to Madu panecha roim va'ata ein chachola ein zakim roya leiv va'ira harbe ma'id. He's the wine bearer and he's royal leiv. That's probably a very big sin. Or the king seems to be suspecting him of some, maybe poisoning him or something, some evil plot. Well, I'm not sure exactly how the text goes. Why shouldn't I look this way? Look at my father's, the city of Beis Kibbutz. Says destroyed. Okay. So firstly, what am I saying there? First of all, you have the mashke to the melech. And by the way, Chazal say that he got a heter to drink yain akol because he's the mashke to the melech. So it's like the opposite of the Daniel story. What?
Yeah, because he has to drink it to prove his life.
I guess he has to taste it. Maybe right. Right, I'm not sure.
If it's a parallel,
Yeah.
we know that Queen Elizabeth I had the people who tasted the food, they would serve it,
Right.
and then they taste part of it. Whatever they brought in, they would taste that.
So
And
it's
that's
not
what-
poison.
Right.
Okay.
So he's serving the wine.
Right.
Suggest that he would drink some of the wine to prove it's not poison.
Right. So basically, Daniel is dafka not having the pass in yain, and Nechemiah is maybe that's what the Saramashkin come to think of it. Saramashkin lives and like Saramashkin has to drink the wine. I don't know. Anyways,
Has to taste it.
has to
presumably.
taste it. Maybe the massage maybe doesn't face it. Anyways, the point is like this. The point is you have Madu Panechem Royim. I was just showing you that so we have three places in Tanakh Madu Panechem Royim. Basically, Yosef to the thing, and then Daniel. Why should he see it? Why should he see it? And here in Nechemiah. And Agav, this supports my question. I think on the story of Yosef, Madu Panechem Royim is a very funny question because Madu Aloyer Panay. I'm in jail waiting to get killed.
Right.
Maybe. So I think the fact that in Nechemiah's story, that's the answer. Tells us that we're supposed to think about that question for the Yosef story. But that's not my point. I just want to bring out to tie it together that this idea of the person in the king's court and Mashka and the Eifa, and Daniel it's passing yain, and here it's the Mashka.
Sarah, Mashka, and Sarah plausibly are the ones who serve the bread and the wine, or the baked goods and the wine, because they're the Sarah who serves the king, and not the baker,
not the bakers.
Not the guy who makes.
Yeah, no, it looks like that because it says kos par biyadi, right? For sure.
He's the one who, well, at least in the wine case.
Yeah.
Yes. And he said, I had all the things that I was carrying, all the things that the par eats. I mean, par himself. I mean, presumably he's accustomed to being.
The sata kos par biyadi, v'etanas kos akaf par. It sounds like Nechemiah, like really the one who brings in the yain.
Right.
Okay, I want to show you one more thing.
Similarly is carrying it. So.
Okay, I want to show you a pasuk in Keheles that also will tie this all in a different way, bring it all together. This is in Keheles Perek Ches, pasuk Aleph. Keheles Perek Ches, pasuk Aleph goes as follows: Mi kehechacham, u'mi yodea pesher davar. Who's like the chacham and who knows the pesher davar? Pesher. Keheles Perek Ches, pasuk Aleph. Mi kehechacham, u'mi yodea pesher davar. What's pesher mean? Pesher means to interpret. The word Pesher appears only in Daniel and in Kelos once. Once in Kelos and then about 30 times in Daniel. And it means interpret dreams. Daniel's always busy interpreting dreams. And like the word Pisrain, by the way, which appears also in the Yosef story, but only in the Yosef story. Okay, so Pesher is like that. In Daniel, it's Aramaic, but here it seems to be Lashon HaKodesh also. So Mikeh HaChacham Umiyah De Pesher Davar. The Chacham who knows the Pesher Davar. Chachmas Adam Ta'ir Panav. That's the point. When they avoid the food, right? So they get Chachma, and Daniel gets a special Chachma to be able to interpret dreams. And Ta'ir Panav, they look fine. They look perfectly fine. Ifei Ta'ir Ifei Mara, even though they don't have the food,
Seems to be more
but they have Chachma.
The indication is more than fine.
But right. But the point is they have a different source of looking good, which is their Chachma.
Mhm.
It's based on this pasuk. What? Yeah, Torah Panav, right? There's something about him that animates him, and which is Chachma. I mean, it's in a natural sense. A person could not eat a lot, but he has other things that make him look good because he has some special insight. So that's the pasuk is saying, and this is the pesher, and this is right. This is like okay, they got the pesher, so they got the Chachma, so they have Haras Panim, even without the food. Okay, which of course means we have to keep an eye on those psukim in the Hemshech HaParasha, see if there's anything right there. Okay, so then just to start pasuk Zayin, it's obviously Yosef is obviously a Hemshech because he was Yifei Torah Yifei Mara. I'm not debating all that. Because the pasuk was told Yifei Torah Yifei Mara, so the next thing that happens is that. But the point is that Yifei Torah Yifei Mara stand on its own and is significant in terms of pasuk Vav, just in completing pasuk Vav. Okay, that's all.